Most people who try Claude Code for the first time open their terminal, type one command, watch something happen, and then have absolutely no idea what to do next. They close the terminal, they go back to copying, pasting code into a browser tab, and they tell themselves they will figure it out entire code base for months. The person who has heard that Claude Code is genuinely different from every other AI coding tool they have tried, who suspects it is actually worth learning properly, and who just needs someone to walk them through it step by step without assuming they already know everything. In the next 36 minutes, I'm going to show you how to install it, how to set it up properly, how to use it in a real project, how to write the one file that makes every session in dramatically more effective, how to use plan mode when you need Claude to think carefully before it acts, and how to avoid the mistakes that slow most new users down in their first 2 weeks. By the end of this video, you will understand Claude Code at a level that most people who have been using it for months have never reached. Not because they are not capable, but because nobody showed them the mental model before the commands. Let me show you the mental model first. Before the installation command, before the terminal, before any of the practical steps. You need to understand what Claude Code actually does differently from every AI tool you have used before. If you have used GitHub Copilot, ChatGPT, or Cursor, you understand the standard pattern. You describe what you want. The AI suggests code. You accept or reject it. You do the implementing. That pattern has been enormously useful, but it has a ceiling that you have almost certainly hit. The AI is advising you. You are still executing. Claude Code breaks that pattern completely. Claude Code is Anthropic's official AI coding assistant that runs as an agent with direct access to your computer's file system. When you give Claude Code a task, it does not suggest code for you to copy and paste. It reads your actual files. It writes changes to your actual files. It runs actual commands in your actual terminal. It handles Git operations, installs dependencies, runs your tests, and can open pull requests. When you tell it to add user authentication to this app, it reads your entire code base, understands the existing architecture, writes the authentication code across however many files the change requires, installs any packages needed, runs the tests to verify it worked, and reports back what it did. You did not copy anything. You did not implement anything. You described the outcome and it happened. That is the capability shift this video teaches you to use. The Pragmatic Engineer survey from February 2026, covering 15,000 developers, found Claude Code earned a 46% most loved rating, the highest of any AI coding tool. 73% of engineering teams now use AI coding tools daily. Claude Code hit $1 billion in annualized revenue within 8 months of its general availability. This is not experimental tooling. This is production infrastructure for professional development teams right now. Installation. Let us do this cleanly because a clean install prevents the majority of problems new users hit in their first session. Claude Code is available in 4 formats. The CLI tool that runs in your terminal is the original format and the most powerful because it gives you direct access to everything the tool can do. The desktop app for Mac and Windows gives you the same capabilities with a graphical interface. The web app is available at claude.ai code. Extensions for VS Code and JetBrains let you run Claude Code directly inside your existing editor. For this tutorial, we are focusing on the CLI and the desktop app because they give you the most complete picture. For CLI installation on macOS or Linux, open your terminal and go to the official install page at claude.ai to get the current install command directly from Anthropic. The install method can change, and the official source always has the most current version. On Windows, the recommended path is the desktop app downloadable from anthropic.com. Claude Code requires a paid Claude subscription. If you are already on Claude Pro at $20 per month, Claude Code is already launched. You choose a display style and log in with your Anthropic account. Then you are ready. One important thing to know before you go further, running multiple Claude Code sessions simultaneously multiplies your token usage proportionally. If you are on a usage-limited plan, keep that in mind. For most beginners, starting with a single focused session is exactly the right approach. Now you are inside Claude Code for the first time. You have a prompt. You can type. And most first-time users immediately make the same mistake. They type a vague one-line request and then wonder why the result is not what they expected. The single biggest skill in Claude Code is not knowing the commands. It is knowing how to give context. Claude Code can see your files, but it cannot read your mind about what good looks like for your specific project. The more context you provide in your first message of a session, the better every subsequent action will be. Instead of saying add a login page, say I'm building a React application for a small business booking system. The current stack is React with TypeScript on the front end and Express with PostgreSQL on the back end. I need to add a login page that uses JWT authentication and connects to the existing users table in the database. The auth state should be stored in React context. When you give that level of context up front, Claude Code reads your existing files with the right lens, makes decisions consistent with your existing patterns, and produces work that fits rather than work that technically does the thing you asked, but in a style completely different from everything else in your code base. Context is not overhead. Context is the investment that makes everything else faster. /commands are the controls that let you direct Claude Code's behavior during a session, and there are a handful you will use in almost every single session. The most important one for new users is the /help command, which prints a list of everything available, so you always have a reference. The /clear command clears the conversation context and starts fresh while staying in the same directory, which is useful when you finish one task and want to start another without the previous context affecting Claude's decisions. The /review command asks Claude Code to review your recent changes before you commit, which is one of the most underused features by beginners and one of the highest value habits you can build. You make a set of changes, you type /review, and Claude Code reads through everything it just wrote and tells you if it notices anything that could be improved, any edge cases it missed, or any inconsistencies with the rest of the code base. This is the equivalent of having a senior developer review every single pull request before it goes anywhere. The /compact command is useful in long sessions because it compresses the conversation history to preserve context window space while keeping the key information Claude needs. In very long sessions, without using /compact, you can start to hit context limits that degrade the quality of responses. Use it when you notice you have been working in the same session for a while, and the tasks are starting to pile up. Plan mode is the feature that separates beginners who get mediocre results from users who get genuinely impressive results. Plan mode is activated by pressing Shift and Tab together before you submit a message. What it does is tell Claude Code to reason through the task completely before taking any action. Instead of immediately starting to write code, it first produces a detailed plan showing every file it intends to touch, every change it intends to make, and the reasoning behind each decision. You read the plan, you can ask it to adjust anything, you can add context it missed, you can tell it to approach H something differently. And only when you are satisfied with the plan do you approve it and let Claude Code execute. Why does this matter so much for beginners? Because and you are less familiar with a code base or with a particular technology, it is much harder to catch a mistake in finished code than to catch a mistake in a plan. Finished code requires you to understand what was done and why. A plan written in plain English requires you to understand only what is intended. You can review a plan even if you would not be confident writing the code yourself. Plan mode is the feature that makes Claude Code genuinely usable for developers who are to learning, not just for experts who can immediately spot when the AI has gone in a wrong direction. Use plan mode for any task that touches more than 1 or 2 files, any task where you're not completely sure what the right approach is, and any task that could break something important if it goes wrong. The ClaudeMD file is the single most impactful thing you can set up in your project, and the step that most beginner guides either skip or mention too briefly. ClaudeMD is a plain text file that you create in the root directory of your project. Claude Code reads this file automatically at the start of every session in that directory. Whatever you put in it becomes the standing context for every interaction you have in that project. Think about what that means. Without Claude.md, you have to re-explain your project stack, your conventions, your preferences, and your constraints at the start of every session. With a good Claude.omd, you explain them once, and every subsequent session starts with Claude already knowing everything it needs to know about your specific project. A good Claude.md for a beginner should include the tech stack and the versions you're using, any coding conventions or style preferences specific to your project, such as how you name files or structure components. Any constraints, Claude should always OR aspects such as never modifying certain files or always writing tests for new functions, and any context about the project's purpose that helps Claude make better decisions. You do not need it to be long. A well-written Claude.md of 200 to 300 words will make every session noticeably better than starting with no context file at all. The time you spend writing it in the first session, you get back many times over in every session that follows. A quick template to get you started. Open a new file in your project root called Claude.md. Write the stack you're using and why. Write the conventions you follow. Write the things Claude should never do. And write one sentence about what the project is for. That is it. Save it. Every session from that point forward starts with Claude already oriented to your project rather than discovering it from scratch. The most common mistakes beginners make in their first 2 weeks with Claude Code all come from the same root cause, treating it like a more powerful autocomplete, rather than treating it like a capable agent I. You are directing. The distinction matters more than it sounds. An autocomplete tool is passive. It responds to what you type, and you evaluate the suggestion. An agent is active. It takes actions with real consequences on your real files. The mindset shift required to use an agent well is not complicated, but it is real. You are not evaluating suggestions anymore. You are directing work and reviewing results. That shift from passive evaluator to active director is what unlocks the most powerful uses of Claude Code and what prevents the most expensive mistakes. The first mistake is accepting changes without reviewing them. Claude Code writes real code to your real files. When it is done with a task, read through what it produced before you move on. Not because it is likely to be wrong, but because understanding what was written is how you stay in control. An occasional mistake before it compounds into a larger problem. And the second mistake is working in sessions that are too long without direction. Claude Code is very capable, but it works best when you give it clear SPO, specific tasks with defined scope rather than one enormous prompt that tries to build everything at once. Break large features into meaningful chunks, complete one chunk, review it, commit it, and then start the next session with fresh context. The third mistake is not using Git. Claude Code integrates with Git natively. Use it. Commit frequently. If Claude Code makes a change that you later decide was wrong, being able to roll back is far easier than trying to undo manually. Before starting any significant Claude Code session run Git status, make sure you're starting clean and commit your baseline. This costs 2 minutes and protects everything that follows. One final thing that most beginner guides do not tell you about. Claude Code works best when you treat each session as focused work rather than an open-end D conversation. Start a session with a clear goal. Achieve that goal. Review what was produced. Commit. End the session. Start a new session for the next goal with fresh context. This discipline keeps your ons tight, your context clean, and your results consistently high. The developers who get the most out of Claude Code are not the ones who run the longest sessions. They are the ones who run the most focused ones. That focus is what you're building toward. Install Claude Code today. Create your first Claude.md in whatever project you are currently working on. Use plan mode on your first real task. Review what it produces, commit it, and then do it again. The 95% of Claude Code that matters to a beginner is not about knowing every feature. It is about building the habit of giving good context, reviewing what the agent produces, and working in focused sessions with a clear goal. You have that now, go use it. Subscribe for more tutorials like this one and drop a comment below telling me what project you're going to use Claude Code on first.